What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Iowa Entrepreneur. This is Raul Espinoza, your host, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Zach Sturm, also known as Exterminator on Instagram and social media. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Thanks for doing this too. I know you're a busy guy, and he just got done with a competition last night that I had the honor to attend. So you're probably tired.
Yeah, I'm a little tired, definitely sore, feeling it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
Would you say it's similar than the last time you went to, or now that you've kind of prepared a bit more, you feel less sore, or it's always just going to kill your
you're
body?
always going to have a level of sore, but I'm getting better at, what to do to recover from that.
Okay.
And so I did a lot more work with, getting up in the morning instead of sleeping in late, getting up, moving, trying to get active again just to reactivate the muscles and things like that you strained or whatever.
Okay.
But,
And we'll get to more like of how you prepare for a competition later. But first off, I wanted to tell you guys listening and watching, he is the son of Jason Sturm, which owns the Edge Pro. He was on episode 3. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out, guys. So your dad's awesome. I love that he was on the show. But he's a big supporter of you as well.
Yeah.
Right? And probably has been since growing up. Can you tell us, like, were you born in Ankeny? What was your life kind of...
So actually born, raised, I guess, in Polk City.
Okay.
So just a little distance from here.
Sure.
But dad's from Ankeny, so local.
Nice.
And in his case, like, his interest in the powerlifting, he always jokes that he's living vicariously kind of through me because he was really into powerlifting, but not as what we see today.
Yeah.
But back in the day, and he was incredibly strong, and he was a lot smaller than I was.
Okay.
Or I am, I guess.
Yep.
And so he was really into it, ended up getting an injury that prevented him from continuing that. Okay. And now all these years later, getting to see me,
he's getting all pumped
not only do what he did, but far exceeded in some cases, and that progress and potential there.
Do you tease him ever about how much?
A little bit. I have to be careful though when you consider, body percentages and things like that, because he was like in high school, he was like 165, and I'm like, 280 pounds. So there's a little difference there in like what I'm going to be able to do versus what he can do.
Yeah.
Just
I always see him share his stuff too. And you can tell he's really proud of you. What was life like growing up with a business owner dad? I mean, did you go to school, or were you homeschooled? Were you with him all the time?
So we were homeschooled, and then we actually it was probably like a good 10-year period where we didn't really have any employees. So it was just like my grandfather, my grandma, and my mom and dad. Yeah. And so we actually had desks in our own little school office area in the shop.
Yep.
And so some of our motivation was, if you got all your school done, you make 25 cents for every shelf you dusted or something like that.
That's super cool to have grown up that way.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And we got to travel and go to all the conventions and shows and really learn about it.
That's cool. It's starting to... Not as much back then, like even when I went to school, that people really wanted to be home. But now it's like people want to be homeschooled so they can do things like that, learn about business or whatever they love to do early on.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I didn't really have a desire for a 4-year degree.
Okay.
So I just went to trade school.
Yeah.
I wanted to work with my hands. That's what I'm more gifted in. And so that's
you probably caught that early on. Then.
Yeah, and so growing up in the shop, I was able to utilize things and learn. And all of those skills and coordination and things really helped in going to trade school and those opportunities I had growing up in the shop.
Yeah. So would you say being homeschooled is somewhat of a benefit actually for some people?
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits, and, this is a public forum, so I guess I'll throw it out there. I grew up homeschooled and I'm pretty sociable. So,
that's always there's always stereotypes with everything, but
and, we did, I played sports and I had, all kinds of groups and things, and we got to go on field trips still. And so we did a lot of stuff like that. And I really enjoyed growing up that way. I definitely had a lot of fun and also, learned obviously.
Yeah. Well, you get to learn not only about business, but the family business, how it ran, and you saw the behind the scenes. And so would you say that has transferred over to your powerlifting career now?
Definitely. Growing up too, when it's a family business and, everything is dependent on you or your family. If you don't do anything, you're not going to make any money this week.
Yeah.
And so if you want to make more money, then you either work more or harder or smarter.
Yep.
So when it came to powerlifting, when it's, do you want to lift more? Okay. then you have to do more. And that work ethic and that desire, what you want, you have to work for. And that's really kind of helped me be able to go farther.
Sure.
I have quite a few conversations with guys that are like, you're so strong and how are you doing this, and I'm like,
always say genetics or
yeah,
you got lucky.
or, you're making these crazy gains. I just don't get it, and you're like, well, you have to first ask what you're willing to give up.
Yeah.
Because I give up a lot of time.
Of course.
And so there was, one kid that was like, if I was going to do anything, what would it be? And I was like, well, you need to be more consistent. You're in here 30 minutes every couple days. I'm in here a couple hours every day.
Yeah.
Just that difference in the time and commitment to it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. That's insane. I don't know how you put in the work like that. Would you say, first off, what got you into powerlifting? Now that we're talking about the subject and you're starting your career in it, what sort of, sparked the idea in your head?
I mean, to be honest, I kind of just fell into powerlifting.
Okay.
In high school, I was pretty strong, played football, really loved weightlifting. Ended up actually doing a bench press and I didn't have any safety set.
Yep.
I didn't have someone that was strong enough to lift weight off me if I did get stuck in the gym.
Wow.
Ended up kind of having the weight stuck on me, and I ended up straining my back and some muscles in my neck trying to get it off. And so there was a good 3 or 4 years there where I didn't lift anything.
Okay.
And then I was like, this really sucks. I'm out of shape. I'm overweight. I couldn't even go up a flight of stairs without having to stop halfway kind of situation.
Wow.
And I was like, I've got to find something. And so I actually started doing Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping, which is like kickboxing and cardio.
Okay.
I hate cardio. It's terrible.
Like most of us.
But yeah, pretty much, And so I was doing that and eventually found someone that was able to help me work through those injuries and kind of explain, all those missing pieces. It's not just about going to the chiropractor and getting adjusted. Now you're fine. You have weaknesses and you need to strengthen those. And so eventually I actually found a local gym called Musclebound USA. It's a really cool little hole in the wall gym. And I walked in one day and I was like, I'm tired of being weak and out of shape. I want to get strong. This is what I'm doing. And he was like, the owner was like, sweet. He handed me the Strongless 5x5, just a piece of paper. He was like, start at the bar, just 45 pounds, add 5 pounds every week. And welcome to powerlifting. And I was like, okay,
that's simple, huh?
This can't be that bad.
Yeah.
And by starting over at the base, it was interesting to see all those weaknesses that you had, but being you just started over, you learned the better form. You learned all of these things in that process.
Yeah.
And it was funny because that program that he started me on is a real basic beginner program. And I did the first 12 weeks. And at the end of the 12 weeks, you take a couple days off and then you go for a PR or a personal record.
Okay.
And so you just start putting on more and more weight to see how much you can do. So I started at 45 pounds and I hadn't lifted anything really heavy since high school. And I think that week I squatted like 400 to 450 after just 12 weeks of training.
Yeah.
And then when I did that, the owner of the gym, Brian, comes in and he was like, so you're going to compete.
And
I was like,
you have a talent for this.
What?
Yeah.
I don't, what do you mean compete? I'd never really seen or heard much of that other than like Olympic weightlifting,
sure,
which is similar yet and very different. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And so for the next year, I just getting continuously stronger and making progress and learning all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And so like a year later, it was New Year's. So January 1st, 2019, went into the gym and I squatted like 585. So it's
an everyday thing for you, huh?
Just over a year in, and I'm, hitting an insane number like that.
Yeah.
And the guy and so Brian again is like, you're gonna compete. And, here's when the next meet is. So a month later I was registered and I was training for my first meet. And so, it just kind of happened, and it was kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, then you have to, Brian must have really been a great mentor for you then to kind of see that gift in you to want to push you.
Yeah, for sure. So, it wasn't something I was looking for. It wasn't even necessarily something I'd wanted.
Yeah.
And then like getting into it, what's really unique was especially the culture of that gym, but even powerlifting in general. You know, it's a competition. Everyone's there to win, but at the end of the day, you're there to beat yourself.
Yep.
You know, make your personal record. You know, they call that the PR.
Yep.
And so just that development, and you can have guys that are competing against each other, really supporting each other too, wanting you to get that next lift, wanting you to get that PR. And it was kind of that culture that really sucked me in because there was such a promotion of making yourself better. And, you know, that can apply to all kinds of stuff. And so I just, you know, going into that first meet, and I was super nervous and I was just all over the place. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. This is a terrible idea. What am I thinking? And then like I walked out there and there's like 200 people, complete strangers. I only knew like 3 people that were there. And I pick up that first squat and I think I opened at like 520 or something like that. And I just nailed it, you know, just perfect. I got all my commands right and everything. I like put the bar down, you know, and everyone's going crazy, you know, like that was awesome. You know, here's this new kid lifting. And it was like right then, that first lift, seeing all the, you know, 3 white lights, meaning you got a good lift from the judges. And like that right there. And I was like, all right, well, I'm doing this.
That
like,
adrenaline spike hit you. You're like, oh man, this is awesome. Endorphins going.
Absolutely.
So would you say, well, what's for those viewers watching that don't know much about sport, including myself, what separates that from like bodybuilding competitions? I'm sure you get that a lot. Or strongman. Are they somewhat similar but different, or are they completely, like you said, different?
So they're entirely different, but yet the same. So in any strength sport, really, because even like when I look at bodybuilders, there's a huge amount of respect between the two cultures.
Sure.
You know, when I see someone and the dedication that goes into sculpting one's body to look a specific way,
sure,
there's a huge amount of respect that I can have for that. Anytime you see someone who is fit or muscular or anything like that, it didn't just happen. You know, it takes a lot of work, and once you get it, it doesn't stay unless you maintain it. And so there's a lot of respect for that. But like bodybuilding specifically is about definition, symmetry, size of muscle, things like that. And it's more of a looks thing.
that aesthetics.
And anyone that's getting that aesthetic, obviously, like some of those really famous guys that did bodybuilding, they were very strong.
Yeah.
Because the easiest way to build big muscle is to lift heavy weight.
Sure.
And then you transition over to powerlifting, which is what I do. Powerlifting, most powerlifters, especially like the guys that are really big in powerlifting, are in the super heavyweight. I mean, these guys weigh like 350 to 400 plus pounds. They're giants. They don't care what they look like. They're like, I don't care what I look like. All that matters is how much weight can I put on the bar and lift, you know? And one of the guys that was actually judging at our meet is that I was just at is JP Price, and he is like a world champion powerlifter. Wow. And he's one of you know, you can count on less than both hands how many guys have squatted 1,000 pounds raw.
Wow.
Meaning no squat suit or anything, and he's one of them. And so it was actually really awesome to see him there.
Want to have him watch you face to face lift all this weight.
And, you know, and kind of one of those things I said, you know, this year was I need to set some bigger long-term goals, things that aren't going to happen today, but that are going to be those longer goals that I want to go for in the future. And I was like, you know, how crazy would it be to squat 1,000 pounds raw? And I was like, well, let's just make that a long-term goal. It may never happen, but it's something to work for. Sure. And then I'm at a meet and here's a guy that's done it, you know, and you're like, oh, wow, there's the guy that's done that thing. He was crazy.
A massive guy too.
Yeah. And he's a pretty big guy.
That's cool.
But yeah, so powerlifting though is going to be a 3-event competition specifically. So you're going to squat, bench, and deadlift in that order. And then what they do is they combine those for your total. And those are kind of the 4 areas that you even they'll hold records for. Would be your squat, bench, deadlift, and total. And then at every meet, they split it into different age classes and weight classes. There's a whole bunch of them. But then like the age classes, like I compete in the junior and the men's open. The men's open is 24 to 39, I believe. And if you're in that age category, that's the only age class you can compete in. But if you're a junior like I am, I'm in the 20 to 23, I can actually move up and compete in the men's open. So anyone can compete there. But that's like, you know, it was really funny because I actually met JP for the first time at my first meet. He actually checked my gear in, and I had no idea who he was at the time because I hadn't watched any YouTube videos. I didn't know anything about powerlifting. And it was really funny because I walk up and he was like, I see, you know, you're at that time, like I think I was 21, just turned 21. And he goes, you could be in the junior, you know, and probably set records. And I was like, well, I didn't register for that. I signed up for the men's open. I didn't know what I was doing, you know, and he was like, good, because no one should be competing in the junior. And I was like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. What's
like,
his deal?
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was like, it was almost a year later. I was talking to some guys at the gym who'd visited JP's gym in Kansas City, and they were like, showed me a picture, and I was like,
that was him.
That was him.
That probably made that more unique of a memory then.
Yeah, and like even like going to this meet and seeing him again, and it's, you know, it's kind of one of those unique things, and that's kind of cool. But so that's kind of powerlifting, is those specific lifts.
Okay.
The greatest confusion people have is between powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting.
Okay.
Which is actually just called weightlifting, but I say Olympic for the context.
Sure.
And that's where you're going to do more of like your overhead squat or your snatch and things like that, which are a much more athletic movement.
Okay.
I avoid those because they're also more dangerous in the idea that you're susceptible to injury if you don't really train specifically for it, and you really need someone that knows the technique to train you to do it.
Sure.
And there's not as much of that around as you would think.
Okay. Well, you'd have to probably, your goal would be to go to the Olympics to do that, to even want to bother, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, you know, like the Olympics, or even there's like high school teams, things like that,
okay.
and then they go to nationals or like the Pan American Games.
Okay.
Things like that. There's all kinds of competitions and weightlifting competitions nationally, internationally, all over the place. But you know, if your school didn't have a weightlifting programs for that, or the college, or you didn't find a club, and you know, being in Central Iowa, there's not as much of that, and you got to be in a pretty specific, you know, training. Because I actually thought, you know, when I was getting into this, wanting to be fit, you know, get healthy, I was thinking like CrossFit, you know, like that looks pretty cool. I like watching the CrossFit games.
Yep.
Ended up kind of going away from that idea simply because of my history with injury.
Sure.
And not necessarily knowing if that was something I wanted to get into.
Okay.
But so that's kind of some of the differences and intricacies of the different sports, and they get confused a lot.
Sure.
But,
well, that's what I was asking, so we can kind of grasp at what your you know, this career you wanted to start. Tell us about the records. You told me you had 12 state records.
Yeah. So at this meet specifically, I was able to break 12 state records, 8 of which are the drug tested. So when you're setting records, I'm setting, you know, there's 4 available records for every age and weight class, which is your squat, bench, deadlift, and total. And then I was able to do that in the junior and the men's open age divisions. And so there's 8 drug tested records.
Wow.
And then, you know, being drug tested is held to a higher standard, actually.
Sure.
You can also set the untested records at the same meet. So then I actually broke 3 of the records I set at my last meet, or 4 of them, 3 of them in the junior and 1 in the men's open.
Wow.
So
all across the board.
Yeah, a little bit there. Okay. And then the only one I had set that I didn't break was the squat. Didn't do as well in this meet as my squat as I'd wanted to. Okay. Probably got a little bit too excited and went a little too heavy too soon, but it happens, and it was still a good meet. And so all those records, I had a shot at a couple national records. Didn't happen this time. Yep. Gonna get back in the gym and train for nationals here in a few months and go for them again.
So, for example, how much weight are we talking about for deadlift to kind of get them to grasp that much weight?
So for deadlift at this meet, I ended up pulling 705 pounds. Wow. Which was the second heaviest lift at the competition. Yeah. Was beat out by one guy I've known for a little while, seen him in a few meets, and he pulled 711 pounds.
Wow, that's just so much weight.
My family kind of jokes because I weighed in for this meet at 272, but was like 285 day of, and they're like, so it's just 2 of you. And I was like, man, That's kind of rough.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a lot of weight.
Of
And
course.
it's one of those crazy things that, you know, 2 years ago, I was like, man, I didn't even know what a deadlift was.
Sure.
Like, I'm coming to the gym, and they're like, yeah, so you're going to squat, bench, and deadlift. And I was like, what's a deadlift?
Yeah.
You know, I've squatted and I've benched and I've done some cleans, but like, never seen like a strict deadlift.
Sure.
That's kind of how inexperienced I was.
Mm.
And I'd kind of gone in with some really basic goals. You know, I was like, man, I want to squat 405. I did that once in high school. I want to be able to do that again and maybe bench like 225.
Wow. Which what did you bench yesterday?
So in the meet,
competition?
I got a 402 pound bench press, which
Double
was
what you wanted to bench
almost
press.
almost double what I
Yeah.
ever thought I would do. And you know, and just talking to other guys, they were like, man, you went too light on that one. You probably could have gotten 425, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to think about that kind of weight and that type
Sure.
of movement in those numbers. And then like for squat, I squatted 622 and almost got
Jeez.
672. But wasn't quite able to grind it out.
Yeah.
I have what they call a sticking point in my training. So right after you come to the hole at the bottom of a squat, I have this little area where I get stuck sometimes.
Okay.
Especially, you know, the heavier the weight, the more obvious it becomes.
Of course.
With the meet and, you know, having to cut weight to make my weight class and things, I just didn't have the same power to power through it.
Gotcha.
And grind it out and ended up not getting that one. And I'm looking forward to, I've never had a coach or a trainer. I've just kind of followed some basic programs and done research online. And that's, you know, really worked well during what they call the beginner gains. When you go from 0 to 60, call it, you know, you can put on a lot of weight really fast, get really strong. That period is pretty much over for me. You know, I'm not making 50-pound PRs. You know, I had one, you know, on my deadlift. I'd never done it. Every time I went to the gym was a PR. I went from like, I probably pulled 500 and then like 6 months later I pulled 600. You know, that's not normal.
No.
But that's, you know, not beginner gains. I'm a bigger guy. I've got the genetics for it. I'm just built stronger. Now that's kind of over. You know, I'm kind of getting like, I'm going to train for 12 weeks and I'm going to put 5 pounds on my total. And so I'm looking forward to having an actual coach who's going to come in and kind of say, you know, like an instance for that squat and that sticking point I mentioned, saying, you know, you've got that. So we're going to add chains or bands or these accessory movements to strengthen things and be able to power through that to eliminate that weakness or at least minimalize it and be able to increase the weight again. And kind of take it to that next level.
So what are the key points you would think that you learned from this meet? Well, obviously one was you need a trainer. Is there anything else you think you would have wanted to do different?
You know, when I look at this meet, you know, every meet is a learning opportunity. And I always say when I'm in the gym that I want to train the way I'm going to compete. And it was pretty obvious at this one I didn't. There were some, you know, in these meets to keep it even for everyone, you know, have a level playing field. They have specific commands and things they're going to do. And so there were some of those technical things, like my first attempt on bench press was 330 pounds. I can do that for like 10 reps. You know, it's easy. I just need to walk in. I just want that first lift to be really clean. And I had someone lift off for me that I hadn't have lift off for me before. And I wasn't focused. And I ended up kind of shoulder shrugging the weight. Well, being the bar went down and up, it was a technical disqualification of the lift. And it was a no lift. And I was like, man, you know, that should never have happened. And I even went over to the table to you know, I was like, I'm not going to say that weight. I'm going to go up because I know I can get it. I just need to get focused. And one of the judges was like, well, that looked easy because you kind of shoulder shrugged it. You know, what's going on? Kind of one of those things. So being in this meet, I need to focus on not just getting stronger, but learning that technical side and, you know, the commands and, you know, preparing better for the meet. On that aspect.
Yeah, because I was with your brother-in-law watching, and we were like really pumped to see you break that state record, and then you barely got it off the bar, and you're like, nope. You just went back, and we're like, was it too heavy for him? What happened? Did he get hurt? And like you could tell the crowd was like a little uneasy, wondering, you know, because they could tell like they've known you before that you could probably do this, so they were probably like, what's going on? So it was nice to see there was just a technical thing. You just laughed it off, and everyone was supportive in that way. And then the next time you went up, you didn't even have spotters to take the bar off. You're like, let me just do it. And you went and just killed that one and then the next one without having help. So that's really interesting to see that the most minimal movement can be detrimental to your goal to hit that record. So
yeah. And, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, mentally I hadn't prepared as well for this meet as I should have. You know, the whole time, you know, they announced this meet 10 weeks out. It usually takes 13 weeks to prep for a meet.
Okay.
And then I was sick in December and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but it's drug tested. It's the only way I'm going to qualify for nationals and have time to register and all these things. And so I kind of got sidetracked by some of that going into this meet. And then going into the day, just kind of like, I almost got overconfident because those couple weeks out, I squatted 675 and I pulled 700 for a double. And I was like, man, I'm so strong. I'm going to kill this meet.
Yeah.
And I went in there and my first squat at 622, just super easy. And it was great. It moved well. And I was like, boom, I'm doing it, national record time. And I was almost, you know, like felt guaranteed in it. And so then to go out, I unracked it. I stepped back. And as soon as they gave the down command, I just dropped right down into that squat. And I didn't really get tight or whatever. I was just like, I did it in training. It's no problem.
Yeah.
That's 672 pounds. And I wasn't tight and all these things. And it buried me.
Yep.
And now you're, you know, that moment I automatically questioned, like, oh no, how's this meet going to go? Because I just bombed out on a lift that I should have had. Came back out for my third attempt and last attempt for squat. And I kind of talked some guys in the back. But again, now you're doing that same weight again. You're a little bit tired or burnout or whatever. And I was feeling my back was a little tight and ended up not getting it. So I did one squat attempt. I failed 2. Obviously, I got that technical on my first bench. And I went back there, you know, and I went ahead and moved my bench weight up, which is like a big no-no. Like if you don't get your first one, you stay there because you need to get, you're guaranteed that first one. And as soon as you give them a higher weight, you can't go back down. And I was sitting back there before that, just kind of going, what did I just do? I just moved my bench up. I just 3 failed lifts in a row. What am I thinking? And there's a guy, Zach Severin, who's a big power lifter. And in my first meet, I watched him squat 930 in a squat suit. And I was just, and he's just a massive man. He was like 360 plus pounds at the time, just a giant. He comes up to me and he was like, bro, you need to get out of your head. You need to flip whatever switch is in there, shut it off, and go out there and just do it. And I was like, you're right.
Is exactly what you did with the rest of your lifts.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and it was kind of a unique turning point, but it took someone coming up to me and like, you're in your head, something's going on. You need to shut it off and just go lift it. This is, you know, my second attempt on bench was like 375. You know, I've hit it probably 50 times in training. It should be no big deal. And so I went out there, I called off the spotters, like, I don't want you to lift off for me. I'm just taking the weight. I'm going to stay focused and clean, and nailed it.
You did it.
And that was kind of the turning point of the meet for me. But just kind of looking at it as a whole, I really let myself get in my head. And that's something I'm going to have to work on for the next one.
Yeah, of course. So what did you qualify for with this competition?
So this competition being drug tested, I am qualified for, well, I guess I have to wait for the drug test to finalize, but I'll be qualified for the United States Powerlifting Association's National Drug Tested Championship, which will be in Columbus in June.
Awesome.
And then I'm also qualified then, based on my total in this meet, for the IPL Worlds, which is going to be in the fall sometime.
Okay.
They haven't announced date or location.
And that's usually overseas somewhere, or?
Yeah, so like last year was in Ireland, and then the year before that I was like South Africa or something like that, I think.
So that would be awesome if you get a chance to.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fun. And like the only place you can actually set the IPL World Records is at the IPL Worlds. So if you want to set the record, you have to go, which is how some of the US national records are actually higher than the IPL World Records.
So what's your goal with this career you started? You know, it's going to be a business, obviously, because that's how these things usually work out. You know, Are you looking for sponsors? Or what is your goals for your brand per se?
Yeah,
In this career?
so I would like to get sponsored. There's, I have a few companies that I really like their stuff, and I might reach out to as I move forward. But also, like, um, you know, in all fitness things, you can do T-shirts and stuff like that.
Sure.
And for me, it's a hobby, but it's also kind of like you said, the business idea. So using those opportunities like T-shirts, stickers, stuff like that to raise the money
Sure.
to be able to afford to go to these meets. But then also, it's funny as we were setting up my social media stuff, trying to figure out how to do some of that, and I was thinking of it more as a business opportunity.
Sure.
Really, the only fitness related category for the pages is fitness model, and I'm a pretty big hairy dude. I'm not exactly what you would think of your typical fitness model.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it actually at this meet and afterwards, and my experience and where I came from, and lifting weights. And when I got started, it was really hard because I went to like the Y, and there's like two types of people at the Y. There's the old people on the treadmills that literally don't care what anyone thinks of them, and then there's like these people that really know what they're doing. It seemed, they're bigger, stronger guys. So I'm in here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have a program. I have no idea. And you kind of got these judgmental looks, because it's pretty obvious I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of wandering about and lifting stuff in a weird way. And so when I look at that and, I'm a fitness model according to my pages, I may not be modeling my looks, but what I want to model is that anyone can do it. And if you're at home and you're struggling like I did with going up a flight of stairs, or you're just overweight, or you're not comfortable with how you look or are, I want to be able to model and show people that you can do it, and then look at, hopefully being able to provide a resource or an area to give recommendation towards how to start, and things like that. And so I think that's more of an opportunity to be that.
Yeah. Sort of to motivate others to see that potential in themselves, because you'll never know unless you do it.
Absolutely.
You would have never, unless Brian pushed you and you found that local gym here in Aiken, you would have never been pushed.
Yeah, exactly.
To do that. So that's what's so wonderful about those types of things in your sport. But you hear that, guys? He's looking for a sponsor. Sponsor this kid. He's got a great future. Thanks, Zach, for doing this.
Yeah.